Hi, this is Anissa with Infinite Blackness, and today I'm going to talk about the books that I read in October. And so, an October wrap up. And I read 8 books. Um, 4 were by Black authors, which satisfied my goal of at least having 50% of my books be by Black authors. 2 were by what I would call other diverse um, authors or genres. And those one was translated from the Arabic, and it's an Iraqi book, and another was no, that one was translated from French. Sorry, and then the other one was translated from Arabic, and I'm not sure what country that author's from. Um, and out of the 8 books, one was an audio, 7 were print, and one was a book I owned, and the other 7 were library books. So the first book I read was the Book Censor's Library, and this is the only one I don't have on me. And that is on the shortlist for the National Book Award in the category of translated fiction. It was really good. I really enjoyed it. It's pretty short, and it's basically about a person kind of in this unnamed person in an unnamed country who is a book censor. So basically, his job is to read all the books, find objectionable things in them, and then censor them and put them in this banned book pile that gets burned at the end of the year or something like that. And what happens is that he actually starts to fall in love with reading and fall in love with the books, and it kind of just takes off from there. It was a good book. Like I think the characters were great. His family is really interesting. I think it's saying a lot about censorship and uh, revolution, the government that's in power and things like that, and what that's all about. So I would say it's a good, worthwhile book to read. The Book Censors Library by Bothania Al Essa. So next was The Underground Railroad, which I have here by Colson Whitehead. And yes, I'm very late to this party. This book came out in 2016, and it won the National Book Award, and it was on the Oprah list. It's on the New York Times Best Books of the 21st Century. And I agree with all of those. It is a very well written book. It's basically about uh, a person, a couple of people who escaped slavery and their journey of escape. It's, the characters are great, the writing is excellent, the subject matter is really harrowing to me. I was talking to my son about these books around escape slavery, and I was like, like it's not really like I'm enjoying reading. It's a good book, and I'm glad I read it, but I can't say I enjoyed it. And he was like, yeah, you don't really like pick up a book to feel anguish. And that's exactly the way that these books make me feel. Like I just feel this anger and just this anguish and just so much pain. Um, but so it's a real underground railroad. It's kind of like a subway that you take to go to various places. And this couple, they're not together, but these two people kind of go to these different places and have these different experiences. And so one of them, just to give you an idea, is the way that this place, I think it was North Carolina, if I'm not mistaken, the way that they were dealing with the having too many Black people and the threat that poses because of revolting and turning against the so-called master. What they did was basically they just killed every single Black person, and they would put their bodies up. So there would be this like street or highway, and there'd be this like line of bodies on the side of the road, and that was kind of how they both dealt with the issue and let you know as a Black person that your life was in danger if you came here. So that kind of gives you a flavor of some of what this book has in store for you. So it was good though. I mean, it was enjoyable. Okay, so next is The Yards Between Us. I don't have this one either because this is a memoir, and it was on audio. So, The Yards Between Us, a memoir of life, love, and football by R.K. Russell. And basically, it's a memoir, and he is a former NFL player. And this memoir is about his early life and becoming a football player, and then eventually coming out as bisexual. It was a good memoir. I enjoyed it. I'm going to do a whole video on memoirs because I've read quite a few this year and I have feelings. This one I felt like did a great job of like his childhood and playing football and all the things that he went through. Um, he's also a Black author. The the telling of him discovering that he was bisexual um, was it was interesting, So I'd love for you to read it and you tell me what you think. Um, it was very, in my opinion, of the things that I know, kind of atypical of a way to discover. It seemed very clinical or very. Um, there wasn't anything like nascent. There wasn't like, ooh, I have these certain feelings. If I'm remembering correctly, it was more like a very like, let me look into this and very kind of academic and then discovering things. So, but other than that, it was really good. I enjoyed it. It was good on audio. He narrates it himself. Next is Here One Moment by Leanne Moriarty. And this, she's an Australian writer, very well known, wrote Big Little Lies. And basically, this novel is about a woman who's on a plane ride and she walks up and down the aisle and she points at people, everybody on the plane, and says, "This is how you're going to die and at what age. I predict that you're going to die of a heart attack at the age of 57, for instance." And it is about how the people on that plane deal with that information. Is it true? Is it not true? And also her life, the person who said this. So it deals with these folks that she says that it deals with their life kind of up until that point, and then after that point, and also the person, her entire life kind of up until that point, and then after that point. I thought it was great. I love Leanne Moriarty. I think that she tells a wonderful story. I loved following all these different little threads of these people's lives, and also the person who made all these predictions, her life. It was just good, family sagas, secrets, what do you do with information? Yeah, stuff like that. It was great. I enjoyed it. All right, next is Colton Gentry's Third Act by Jeff Zentner. And I heard about this on Desmond Z's thing, his post, and on his channel. And basically, the thing that got me and made me want to read this book, because it's not necessarily diverse or, any of the other things that I'm trying to get to, was that it's about a country singer who feels a certain way about gun control and basically is drunk at this concert and kind of blabs out how he feels about gun control and destroys his career, destroys his marriage, and just kind of the fallout of all of that. And I thought it was good. There was some parts of it that just didn't seem completely believable. There was almost a part where I was kind of like, do I want to keep reading this book? Because the kind of the third career that he ends up with, this third act, I don't know, just the way that it was very convenient and all of it felt very convenient. But other than that, I thought it was really good. I definitely feel like it's worth reading. I hung in there and I enjoyed it. So next is God Bless You, Otis Spunkmeyer by Joseph Earl Thomas. And this book also came from Desmond Z. And this was at the library, and it is a Black author. And basically it's about this nurse's aide and takes place in the hospital where he works. And it's kind of like this stream of consciousness novel about him working during this day and night that he's working, and then just like all of the things that happen and all the people that come in, and kind of riffs off on his family. He's a vet, so it talks about his time deployed, and talks about it really captures the having one foot in and one foot out of the hood, like, all of the stuff that you go through, kind of the black undercast, if you will, and when you are trying to leave that life, and all of the different parts, his family, people asking for money, folks being incarcerated, having child support issues, just kind of all the things that people go through, trying to get educated, being in debt. There's just like in this very like kind of, it's not a long book, but he captures everything. The stream of consciousness, that took some extra concentration for me, but I could deal with it. And it was very interesting. There's a lot of everybody kind of knows everybody, and everybody ends up in this hospital where he's at, and so that was interesting. And I just thought it was a really good examination of Black life in America. So I do have this one quote. He did not believe my dad could be a person worthy of contemplation because his dad was incarcerated, which perhaps I saw as the real difficulty in a field of liberals decrying the evils of prison and rallying, even in the popular discourse towards abolition, the project of loving someone innocent found guilty or maimed in cold blood was just too easy. I wanted to learn how to love people through real conflict, not just of ideology or mistake, or of the obviously narrowing sphere of choice we are thrust against, but of deed and consistent material harm, because otherwise, what was the point? So I felt like this was really, that quote was really capturing kind of, wanting to show love and compassion, and to people who did wrong things, like not just people who were unjustly accused, but the people who were actually justly accused, but still wanting to be in their corner. And that really was one of the themes that kind of comes through this book. And also that was the kind of writing. So it was kind of this long sentences sometimes that had like a lot of different thoughts all put in there together. So I liked that book. I thought it was good. Next is The Flavors of Iraq, Impressions of My Vanished Homeland. And this is by Forat Alani. This is a graphic work. I don't like to say graphic novels because they're not all novels. And this is basically, the author took, he was embedded, I don't think embedded is not the right word because he wasn't embedded with the military, but he's from Iraq. I think he was born in France, but his family is from Iraq. And so he went back several times, both before some of these wars and then during the wars and after the wars. And that's basically, these are his texts that he would send back from Iraq. He's a journalist, and so he just tells the story. So what you really come away with here is the story, what Iraq was like before they had conflicts. The Iran-Iraq war was the first one I think that he really kind of talks about. And then, of course, there's the first Gulf War. There's the second Gulf War. There is, I think, when Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait, that was in there. There was a embargo. So he talks about that and how people were really hungry and couldn't get anything. And then, of course, there's a black market. And you really see the devastating impact of all of these military activities that were done to Iraq, the impact that it had on your everyday people who lived there, and how it really changed their way of life. Like it just changed, how they celebrated and what their homes were like, the food that they ate. That's kind of part of the the title. So I thought it was a great book. My son read it too, and he really got a lot out of it. I think, it's not necessarily the happiest book, but I feel like it did a great job at showing you a country from the ground up and the impacts of meddling just in all the different facets. Yeah. And then the last book I read, I don't know what happened to it, is the new Jim Crow, and by Michelle Alexander. That's nonfiction. It's about mass incarceration. The tagline is mass incarceration in the age of colorblindness. It's been around a while. I think it was 2010 that it was published, and it is exactly that. It's about mass incarceration and the devastating impact that it's had on the for Black men, especially. That's really her focus. And this book, it was a great book. Like it's one of those books that you can't see the world the same way after you read it. Like you just won't. You just it's one of those things, once you see it, you can't unsee it. And she really goes through the racial discrimination that's a part of every step of the judicial system, from being stopped by the police to not having a good legal representation, to the power that the prosecutor has, to the fact that you might not even have a trial. And if you do, it's not going to be a jury of your peers, because so many people are disenfranchised because they are also felons, to also being just kind of railroaded because you'll end up being threatened with these humongous sentences of like 10, 15, 20 years. So you'll take a plea deal, for something, and you will just go ahead and say, I'll just take a plea deal, I'll get 2 or 3 years. But the trade-off of that is that you also are on probation or parole for like several years after that, and you carry this label with you of being a felon, and that disenfranchises you. You can be denied housing, you can be denied a job, you can be denied a license, like, to be for a certain profession. You can be denied the right to vote. You can be denied the right to be on a jury. So there's this really very long tail. So really, she's not just talking about the actual being in jail, but it's the entire label and what that does to you throughout your life. Just the whole kind of judicial train wreck, if you will. And that is a tool that we're using for racial control. So first it was slavery. That's how we controlled people racially. Then it was Jim Crow. That's how we controlled. And then we declared the war on drugs and primarily targeted Black and brown communities, and then put all those people in jail. And that's how we're racially controlling people now. It is, so you can imagine that is a very difficult book to read. I'm glad I read it, and I'm glad I'm done with it. It was just a really hard book, but I think it's a book we all should read. I agree with what she's saying, that it's kind of I think the racial catastrophe of our time, and something that we need to really put a lot of energy into dismantling. And she does take Black people to task as well in this book, and civil rights advocates in general, that have we done enough? Have we even recognized mass incarceration as an issue, as a problem? And have we really put the energy into dismantling it, versus like trying to maintain affirmative action or something like that? And yeah. And so I think that it is a really good book. It's just tough, which a lot of books are. But that's how you know that it's reaching you, is because it stays with you. This will stay with me for a long time. It really will make me read a lot more books like this. And it's still very relevant today. It was published in 2010. We're in 2024. It's very relevant. All right, so those were my 8 books. And so 4 by Black authors. That was The New Jim Crow, God Bless You, Otis Spunkmeyer, Colson Whitehead, The Underground Railroad, and then the memoir, The Yards Between Us. And then the other 2 diverse books are The Flavors of Iraq. This is also a diverse genre because it's a graphic fiction. And then the other one is, it's not fiction though, but graphic. And then the other one is the Book Censor's Library. And then my other 2 books were Here One Moment and Colson Gentry's Third Act, which I would say this one is a must read, and this one wasn't bad. All right, so that's it for now, and happy reading. All right, take care.